No, Dutch is
Hello.
giving the class.
Oh, shit.
Well,
Hey, I got you a nice patch, Fox. All lives
Thank
matter
you.
except ISIS. Fuck those guys.
Thanks.
That's a great patch.
but pretty much, medical is something that's very vital now that we're in the shit. I've seen a lot of people go down, and the medics are not really keen on what exactly to do with what. So, you just go through your bandages, and pretty simple. Your elastic is used for avulsions. They work best on avulsions. Anything else is going to leave a partial. So for example, if I put an elastic on a high velocity wound, it's still going to be there. I'm still going to bleed. For high velocity wounds, you want to use packing. And basic bandages are pretty much useless. They're a filler, a waste of space pretty much. And when you carry fluids, if you're a medic, you're going to want to carry blood. And if you heard it spoils in the field, it does not. And you're going to want to carry plasma. Usually, depending on the severity of how much blood they have lost, you're going to want to put at least 500 milliliters of blood and plasma into them. And if it's really bad and you need a medevac, 1,000 milliliters of blood, 1,000 milliliters of plasma, and an epi. Always an epi.
Interrogative. There was something that you said about you fill the basic bandages and stuff being fillers. Well,
Yes.
we put that inside of our SOPs because one thing that I noticed is that if you were to get these guys patched up real quick, you know, using like packet bandages or basic bandages, you can go ahead and stitch them up right away without having to use good bandages. Or maybe if you get something like a cut or something.
And essentially, that's why it's a filler. I personally don't carry them, but yeah, that's essentially for a filler. We use them, and it usually takes like quite a bit. So, well, go ahead, Skier.
The reason why you don't use, even though they're filler, if you're in a mass casualty situation, the medics shouldn't be stitching someone up after they're already stable. They should be moving on and stabilizing everyone else before they come back to stitch people.
Yeah.
That's why I use the packing elastic over quick clot.
And that's another thing. You want to get people stabilized as quick as possible. I mean, if someone's down and then you have someone getting shot at, your priority is the person who is down. Once you get them stabilized, you go help out another person. And it's just so on and so forth. Your job as a medic, and even for basic medical, is to make sure that your team and your squad mates are up and ready to fight. Because the more people you have down, the less guns you have. The less guns you have, the easier it is for the enemy to just kill you. And for surgical kits, I know there's like a little problem. I don't know, they're not one-time use. They're not one and done. You can use them over and over. Everybody can use them in a medical facility. Packs aren't usually necessary unless, you know, someone gets medevaced, which then, you know, the doctors said or the medical trainers will handle that. Anything else? Any questions?
What is plasma supposed to exactly do? Since blood just, you know, gives you blood, but what's plasma supposed to do?
Plasma is thicker, and it helps fill that. What's the word I'm looking for?
Blood pressure?
No.
It
Wouldn't necessarily
doesn't
say blood.
It doesn't do anything in ACE.
In
No.
real life, plasma is the liquid and blood is the cells.
Well, okay, but hey, break before we start going off on a tangent about this. According to the actual literature, it doesn't necessarily make a difference on ACE, and that's from ACE themselves. It counts as a fluid.
Yeah.
I guess in that sense, like it's still a fluid.
In the drugs you carry, morphine. The only drugs I carry: morphine, atropine, and epi. Morphine, it drops your heart rate. Epi raises it, and atropine regulates. And something you never want to do, regardless of how much pain you're in, is mix morphine and epi. That will kill you instantly. Your fucking heart explodes, like, every time.
So then, what is the correct practice? So if okay, so my question is that if I'm shot, right, and I'm in pain, obviously I want to take a morphine to get those that little disco strobe thing to go away.
Yes.
But once I do that, I notice that sometimes my heart rate falls. So what should I be using?
Depending on severity of the heart rate drop, you might hear your heartbeat for, an extended time, maybe like 5 minutes. Usually, it'll drop anywhere from 60 to 50, which isn't terrible, but it is, worsening condition. Give it 5, and your blood pressure will regulate on its own. But if you're saying like you just woke up from unconsciousness, you pop a morphine and you drop to like, just right before you pass out again, that's when you want to use atropine. You don't want to pop an epi right after that, because then of course, like I said, you'll die. Atropine will bring your heart rate back up from, I know when I tried it from 40, it brought my heart rate back up to 70 every time. So it'll bring it up, you won't hear your heartbeat, and then things will start to regulate as the medicine goes through your veins. And then obviously epi, if you can't wake them with CPR, pop an epi. Don't use an epi in defibs. It doesn't work. I've tried it. So CPR, advanced CPR, we just got that. It works. If someone has no heartbeat, pop an epi, start doing CPR till you get a heart rate, then you regulate your patient as you would normally.
Now, the next question that comes into play is, if a person's unconscious, we're gonna give them one epi, don't overdose them, and start CPR. But is that always going to be the fix-all for them being in coma?
Negative. You only want to use CPR if the person has no heart rate, because again, CPR is just getting that heart rate started. Epi is when someone's unconscious, yes, you do want to use an epi, because it'll jump their heart rate, but obviously that's what you want it to do. You want it to start them back up. So an epi, and then you want to make sure that their bandages are secured, they're getting stitched, tourniquets. If you have more than one wound on a limb, you want to use a tourniquet. You want to keep as much blood as them as you can.
The tourniquet, everyone, listen. As soon as you get fucking hit and you press the H button, if you have multiple wounds, took shrapnel, you got blown up, the first thing you do, put tourniquets on. That should be your first thing. Pop an epi, put your tourniquets on.
I wouldn't even say pop an epi. It's just, if you know that, you just breached a building, you just hit that corner and you got shot like 5 times. And you got like 3 large high velocity wounds on your arm and your legs are fucked. Something you want to do is just put a tourniquet on your arm and do as much to yourself as you can before you pass out, or until a medic can get to you and do his job. So, and another thing for the medics who are here, when you're on a frequency with the rest of your team, you always want to do status updates. Like I know, for example, last night, we did something little, we just fucking held up in a compound, and I know whoever was there, I know Optic was there, probably got tired of me asking how he was.
Nope, I loved it. I enjoyed it every single time, because that's something that we try to put in practice with our guys.
Yeah, it's just something, if you don't get a status report from somebody, you want to go to their last known. And that should just be an SOP for the medics. As soon as
and team leaders.
Down, yeah, and team leads as well. You always want to constantly make sure everybody's good. Do they need ammo? Do they need, a stitch? Do they need medical attention?
So
You just go ahead.
you said for high velocity already, but for like a low velocity, is it the same? Do you use the same thing or something else?
Any type of velocity wounds, you still want to use a packing. I know for avulsions is elastic. Puncture, you want to use quick clot, because for things like shrapnel, those leave puncture wounds. So quick clot is that scapegoat. And
Okay.
then like basic bandages or fillers for like stitches and whatnot. But
Interrogative. For
yeah.
the avulsions, I've noticed that if I do double quick clots, they do not open back up. Whereas if I use the elastic bandage, there's a higher chance that it will reopen.
Openings have to do with how much movement. So for example, if I have avulsions on my legs and I put elastic down and I start running around again, I'm going to open back up. But for, per se, a patient who is down and you use avulsions on them, or you use elastics for their avulsions, they're not going to raise. It's all based on how your character moves, his fluidity, and how much legs are more important. So you get shot in a leg, you want to make sure that you're stationary, and you should be fine. If you start moving around, you start running, hitting buildings with just fucking elastics on with no stitch, you're gonna open up and you're gonna continue to bleed.
Roger.
Does epinephrine actually increase the amount of blood you lose when you inject yourself with some?
Usually you don't want to inject someone with epis or like blood without them being stitched, because like that, I'm not sure if it does increase the amount of blood you lose, but if that were the case, we don't want you spurting out with blood. We want to make sure everybody's stitched up, and then we get the right drugs in you and they stay in you. And then that's all. I mean,
Right.
Again, I'm gonna say, as just like a closer, no matter where you are, where you sit in your squad, your rank, it's always keen to check on like the status of every one of your team members, because everybody has a job to do, and if somebody doesn't do their job, that could be the life. It could be your life, it could be your team lead's life. And the last thing we need is fucking chaotic, team leadless, like squads running around. Because that's how friendly fire happens, that's how a lot more people end up dying, that's how operations go to shit, so on and so forth. Alright, that's all I'll take.
Okay. So the only other thing that I would like to add on top of that is just a couple of SOP practices that I think Smith has introduced us and adapted. If you pull up your map right now, there's a color and there's a symbol. I'm not going to go into like the extended class in which we did, but try to do, when you're in the heat of battle, I know a lot of people don't like to sit here and do a whole bunch of map marking and make sure it's correct and stuff, but it really goes a long way. So if you got somebody down, just do that. Times one. Hey, there's one person over here who's dead or alive. If you ever see like this or like this, that means it's a casualty collection point. And then also,
Optic, just saying, I wouldn't put casualty collection points. In the past, that's the first thing to always get mortared by AI.
Yep.
Well, in theory, the AI can't see where we've marked the CCP.
But also
I've
in
marked
theory,
it-
Zeus can.
Well,
Yeah,
the
but
Zeus
Zeus should-
shouldn't
I
be.
think
Yeah,
we
you should
can
not be
show it
exploiting that.
100% of the time, we've marked the CCP. For the
Beach
first mortar
CCP
planes in the middle.
have fucked
immediately when I put down the marker for that. The CCP in that small town that we were held up in, that we fortified, sort of, CCP got fucked the moment we marked it.
Okay,
You do also
so
have to watch where you put it. If you put it in global, everybody's gonna see it.
Yeah, it's not in global.
I never enter global.
it's
been
not
global.
the fact that it's in global, it's the fact that you're putting... So you want your CCP to be indoors, because if there are mortars...
It is indoors. Optic. It's the
Okay,
thing
I'm not...
that's in
Okay,
the shell.
okay, guys, enough. Long story short, your casualty collection point is like kind of like an ERV. That's where you fall back. That's where you bring your guys. If you're having your CCP in the middle of a compound where you're under fire, where you're getting mortared, I mean that's more likely of a chance that it's gonna get fucked up. I mean that's just what it comes down to. It's war. And guess what? CSAT, they don't follow the Geneva Convention. They don't care about, you know, where your CCP is or if your vehicle has if your vehicle has a fucking diamond on the side of it. Doesn't even care about our Black Hawk, that Black Hawk that's sitting over there. It doesn't care. So you just got to be more cognitive of where it is, and I will make sure to let any other Zeuses in the know in the future, like, don't target a CCP just because you see it on the map and you know that it's where people are. That's unfair, and the Zeus shouldn't be doing that. And the last thing that I put on the map is a dim. And when you're doing over the radio, like, sit rep, usually sit rep means, like, what's the situation, what's going on, long story short. If you hear status, that means, you know, how are you? You know, I'm up, I'm green, you know, but don't just say I'm up, because you saying I'm up doesn't mean shit to your team leader or to the medic, unless they roll with you constantly and they know your voice. If I say status, optics up, Preacher's up, Dutch is up, Smith is up, Necky's up. That means, like, okay, Smith, Necky, Dutch, here. Alright, we're good. I got everybody there. You know, so just try to remember that. And then the dim is basically more of an extended version of your squad status. So I don't know if we want to legitimately... We try to keep the teams in the fours, but something that we learned from Smith, a dim is a head count of those that are dead, those that are injured, and those that are missing in action. So if I do a status, Preacher's up, Ears up, Dutch, oh shit, he's missing, right? Now say for example, status, Preacher's up, Gears up, but I'm fucked up. Dutch, he's missing, right? Your dim would be 0's dead, 1 is injured, 1 is missing. And Smith, interrogative, is there a way to like kind of annotate how many people are in your squad?
That's just kind of on command and needs, or whoever's tracking this information needs to just have that information. Which is what, like, when we did that last campaign, is I annotated on a piece of paper just the squad makeups for each, so that way when people were calling in that information, I already knew that, okay, this is a team of 5 guys. Or they just made contact with, they estimate a force of 20, and they called in the dead on the enemy, and there's only 5 dead. So it's like, where are the other 15 guys at? That they were apparently, you know what I'm saying? That's just something as the command section just needs to track that information.
Roger. Well, I mean, we don't really do dims. I mean, just us particularly. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we do take enemy dims, especially when we're playing with NATO WAPA. But I don't think that's really something that we focus. Enemy dims isn't something that we particularly focus on our side of the house.
It can be used for both, though.
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there.
No, that's great. And like I said, I'm not trying to take away from your practices. I want everybody to understand that when we do play with the NATO WAPA, command is going to be keeping a track of that stuff, just as he said. So make sure you practice it in both. Do you see what I just put above the dim? Smith, are you tracking on that?
Yeah.
Is that a good way to do it?
Yeah, that's not bad at all. So we know what that has to equal out to. Although, I mean, it should be, in that case, like if it's supposed to equal out to 4, then we've got to have. No, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yep. What was it? Oh, and just what Optic was saying about using your call signs on the radio is super important. I think during the campaign there was like, I mean, it was mostly when shit was going sideways, but people were like asking for stuff, but they weren't saying who they were or where they were. They're just like, help! It's like, okay.
I remember one time. I remember this one time.
At
It was
that
a good
camp?
example of how fucking just crazy it can get. It's like, okay, someone logs on. I'm like, all right, who just joined? Oh, it's me. Well, who's
Right.
me? Me? What?
Yeah.
It's me.
Like, what?
What the fuck?
It's not useful. That's not useful information at all, but thank you.
At the end of the day, you're just pissing a lot of people off.
But yeah, if you do hear that over the net, last caller come up with call sign, that's the command asking whoever just transmitted to clarify who the hell they are, because they probably just said something like, "Hey, it's me. I need picked up."
Who the fuck is me?
Oh,
Right.
you know that one corporal?
I think we should actually introduce someone to this unit who actually, just to illustrate how that works.
No, actually, it's me.
Yeah.
For like a medic assistance, don't say, "Hey, I'm shot." Like, I'm
Right.
attending to like 7 people. Who is "Hey, I'm."
Me is shot.
Yeah.
If I can be frank on that whole "hey, I'm shot" thing, if you can tell somebody that you're, I mean, like, it's one thing to say I'm hit, you know, so this way people know, like, you may go unconscious pretty soon or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hit, I'm bleeding, you know. Okay, that's cool. But if you're calling for a medic, you're wrong. You're wrong. If you're calling for a medic while you're still up, you're wrong. You know, it's one thing to go like, "Hey, I'm hit." Okay, a couple of seconds pass by, and then you're like, "All right, I'm stabilized. I need stitching." Cool, not a problem with that. But to, you know, actually go through with it and be like, "Oh, hey, I need you to come and medic me up." Excuse me.
Put my tourniquets on.
I
Excuse
just
me?
stop giving medical help the
If it's
moment
to a
people are just
point-
like, I'm hit.
Yeah, if it's to a point to where like you got hit with 2 grenades, you got fucking shot like 20 times like DeSantis always does, and you're fucked, and you know you're about to go down, okay, understandable.
Yeah, DeSantis is a
But-
bullet magnet.
Yeah, but if you get shot once in your goddamn shin and you're calling for a medic for a tourniquet, I'm busy.
Yeah, I just stopped allowing medics to go near the people that essentially are like, "Hey, non, I've been tagged. I need a medic," or "Hey, non, I need blood," and we're right next to like 5 category alphas who need blood way more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See these
is
guys? They're
there-
all dying.
Is there a way that we could try to remember, like, if you see a white pickup marker, and you see I'm gonna write it on the map real quick. Is that something that is like acceptable for everybody to remember, seeing that like ×1 category alpha?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like, if you're too fucked up and CPAR isn't working and you can't get them up and they're category alpha, that means like you need to get them the fuck out of there now. So you need to get on the radio with Achilles and tell them, "Ricky Tick, motherfucker, I need you over here, time now." And hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, Smith knows what I'm talking about, but there is a unit that is Air Force Special Operations Command that is particularly going to be doing JTAC and PJA stuff and CSAR. So if we get those guys on, they're literally going to be chilling here at base, waiting for that call. So if your guy is down and he's all red, and you don't think that you're going to get him in time, team leaders, go ahead and start pulling up your map and scouting out a good area for an LZ, or thinking about what kind of vehicles you have around you so you can put them in and get them out of there quickly and get that bird in the air ASAP. Don't wait. Don't sit there and try to stabilize him and all that stuff. Have whoever's around you pull security and start slinging rounds downrange at the enemy. Have your medic, or have the squad medic that's nearby or whoever's the most experienced in it working on him. You need to be marking that map, getting on the radio with Achilles, and having that CSAR bird or Pedro, Achilles or Pedro. Which, by the way, Smith, there's a Pedro patch.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an AFSOC Pedro patch. But you get on the phone, on the horn with Achilles or Pedro, and you tell him to get on route, like en route time now, like as soon as possible. I need you here. This guy's category alpha, time's ticking, and then you continue to assess the situation, sling rounds downrange, and get them up. Everybody copy?
Roger.
And make sure that I think it's kind of that small unit mentality is when you take casualties, it's just like, well, let's get them stitched up and we'll like press with the objective. But we need to really we've got the, assets now with the CSAR teams and whatnot to just medevac people out. So we should be making an effort to getting those guys engaged in the fight with us. So if you take casualties, especially when we got 40 people on it, the mission is not going to stop because your 5-man squad is temporarily out of the fight. Just do a proper, medevac for that guy, get him back and fixed up, and then get back in the fight. So that way it keeps the CSAR dudes employed, and it keeps your guys CMR, and we're not like trying to freaking clear buildings with 2 shattered femurs and head lacerations.
And
Wait.
it's the same thing with the future operations. When we have 40 or more people on the server at the same time, stop being impatient and wanting to just get back. Oh, hey, Smith.
Yeah.
Hey, Crossroads, I need to get out. Crossroads, I need to go. No, chill out. See if there's going to be any more casualties coming in, and if they're going to respawn and you get to go back out. If you notice, you press escape, there is no respawn. There is no forced respawn. So if you're down or you're captured, you're going to have to wait. So just practice a little more patience. The mission isn't going to be over by the time you get back out in the field. It's not going to happen like that.
Read
So
a
with
fucking
us-
book while you wait.
Yeah, I was actually about to suggest that.
So when you there's all these 4-man teams that are going to be out there, go ahead and be cognitive of there's going to be more casualties, especially if it's a mass cast type of situation. Going to be more casualties that are coming in there. There's going to be more people that are going to respawn. So just stand by for a second. And then, there's also with us, reaching the persistency level with the live war room, there's a high chance that there will be people, for example, like Smith and REVGRU are going to log in and they're going to be playing. And it might be like 8 a.m. here in the States on the East Coast. They'll be playing. And then, they're going through their stuff, and then about 12 o'clock p.m., a bunch of us are on, and then we decide, all right, hey, let's hop on. When they start getting mass casualties and stuff like that, there's no reason why we can't act as a QRF, continue that mission, or go and relieve them and get them out. Just a couple of things to look, keep in mind and look forward to. So if we're all good here, anybody have any questions?
I would like to add something really quick. It's
Yes.
just a force of habit for me. But on the subject of announcing when you have been hit, to alleviate that confusion of if you're about to say that you need the medic, which you shouldn't be, or you are seriously fucked up, I will, if it's something that I can handle myself, I will follow up I'm hit with treating myself. That lets my team know, hey, this guy's occupied, he's stationary, he's treating himself, he will let me know when he's fixed and ready to get back up. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, that's
something to
actually
pass
really
on.
good. That's really good, because then it's it lets your squad leader know exactly what's happening. And, we're all used to the small team mentality. Get used to letting your squad leader know what's going on with your composition and your orientation, and then team leaders get used to letting Crossroads know what your situation is, what your orientation and your composition is as well. Because that was one of the things that we kind of fell victim to during the campaign was nobody letting. I mean, excuse me, Delta, you guys did a great job. Every step of the way, they put down on map where they were. they time stamped it so this way, you know, we knew around what time that their last stone was, and they constantly updated Crossroads where what they were doing, what their position was, and marking it on map. So just try to keep, you know, get into the habit of collecting that data and information from your team, being aware, you know, team members, make sure you pass that to them, and then pushing that up the chain. Roger, everybody good?
Copy.
All right,
Roger.
let's load up.
I need some atropine quickly.
Wait. What?
I
Wow.
keep being in pain and I keep needing to take morphine and I don't want to overdose myself with epinephrine and shit.
Very smart. Look at that, guys. He's actually practicing what we just learned.
Yes, because I know what I'm doing, even though epinephrine solves every single problem for me.
Oh, Jesus
Even my
Christ.
marriage.
Oh, my God.
Hold on.
All right, load up.